What's going on, you guys? This is New York Adventure 1994 here, and it's Monday, August 29th, 2022. And I'm sorry I have marks on my face. I really fell pretty hard yesterday. But the reason why I wanted to come out here is because about a year ago today and 17 years ago today, we had Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Ida devastate Louisiana. And what's so coincidental is that both of these hurricanes occur on the same day, 16 years apart from each other. Where we had Katrina in 2005 and Ida in 2021. Yeah, Katrina was in 2005 and Ida was in 2021. So Katrina hit on a Monday and Ida hit on a Sunday. So Ida was becoming organized ever since Hurricane Henri dissipated after approaching the northeast as a tropical storm, and as soon as that left, we had another disturbance forming, and then it became organized and it became Hurricane Ida when we had my grandmother's funeral. It formed around that time, and it was approaching Louisiana, and it wasn't looking good. This thing was like rapidly growing into a Cat 4 hurricane. And then a lot of evacuations were in place, and a lot of preparations were being made through that Saturday, but a lot of people were in panic. Like, all the interstates were packed as many people were trying to get out of the crosshairs of that storm, so they're not in the floods and the winds throughout the storm. And they evacuated to avoid a power outage in their house, and they were worried about losing their home, so a lot of these people packed the interstate in one direction to get out of the crosshairs of that storm. There was a whole live video on that, and all these cars and trucks were on the interstate trying to get out of Louisiana as fast as possible, but there was a lot of traffic because of all the Louisiana residents, and a lot of people were in the crosshairs of that storm where their homes were. And a lot of the airports, the nearby airports in the crosshairs were packed. New Orleans Airport was really packed, and a lot of flights were getting canceled and delayed and everything. And a lot of people couldn't find flights to get out. Yeah, this was a very serious situation. A lot of people panic, especially if a major hurricane is coming. Yeah, this thing was almost at a Cat 5, Hurricane Ida, but its peak intensity was a Cat 4. And that Sunday morning, it like devastated so much of Louisiana and Mississippi. It destroyed a lot of stuff, it downed a lot of wires, it took down so many trees, thanks to all the wind, and it flooded the place really badly. There were floods everywhere. There were coastal flooding and inland flooding. That all the evacuates and everyone else who was outside of Louisiana, we were not allowed in the state of Louisiana, whether we're not there or if people evacuated. Yeah, if you're evacuated from that hurricane, you weren't allowed in Louisiana those days after it happened. Or if you weren't in Louisiana at all, and you're in a state like New York or Montana or wherever you are, you were not allowed in the state of Louisiana after that hurricane hit. Because if you think about it, there's no power, there was a lot of debris and a lot of floods happening. Yeah, 4 days later, a man got killed by an alligator. Or just attacked when cleaning the damage from this hurricane. Yeah, it was some guy trying to clean his home after the hurricane, surrounded by the floods. And this guy got attacked by an alligator, like days later, in one of the floods. And the entire city of New Orleans had no power whatsoever. Yeah, this hurricane did a lot of damage that New Orleans had no power. And there was a lot of property damage. Yeah, I've seen all those winds and everything from Ida down there. It was really scary. This is a very serious situation, and I bet there's still a lot of places down there that are still hurt from Ida. And besides, Hurricane Ida is still fresh in people's minds because of how bad it was. A lot of people were panicking and getting out. But I'm sure that you guys were getting prepared like days in advance, but there was still panic going on before this hurricane. Yeah, it was kind of a good thing we weren't allowed in that state because of what was happening. Or we weren't allowed in the areas that were in the crosshairs of this storm. You know, they also had to relocate a lot of sporting events too. Like the Saints had to play elsewhere. And the college teams nearby had to play elsewhere. Like LSU and all that other stuff. Yeah, that's how bad it was. And then, like 3 days later, Ida weakened to its remnants, and then New York City and Philadelphia were placed underwater from the remnants. I remember that night like it was yesterday. We were having a family movie night watching Cruella, and then we saw this heavy rain coming down and like these 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts in my area from the remnants of Ida, and there was so much rain coming down and flooding that New York City and Philadelphia were underwater for a few days because of how bad it was. And New Jersey saw some tornadoes forming from the system of what was left of Ida. Yeah, and my dad told me that we lost power for 2 hours because there was a thunderstorm during the remnants that night, and a lightning strike hit a power pole. It hit a transformer, and we lost power for 2 hours until PSE&G Long Island came and then bypassed the wire after 2 hours being in the dark. I was actually in a deep sleep during this power outage. I missed the whole blackout completely. And then, thankfully the sun came out. It was like we made it. We made it out of the worst that night. It was actually my brother's first day of school that day, after the hurricane was gone. Yeah, my school year started a bit earlier. It was like the earliest in September my school district started. It was September 2nd, 2021. And my brothers went back to school after summer break was over. After that storm, once that night was over and Ida was past us. Yeah, this was actually one of the first times in a long time after Hurricane Henri we get a back-to-back hurricane. I think this is the first time in a long time where we saw a back-to-back hurricane. Like, the same year we had Tropical Storm Henri and we had Ida a week later. Yeah, so those were back-to-back hurricanes for us. And it was expected beforehand to produce the rainfall during the school day, but it pushed a bit earlier. So yeah, it was supposed to hit during the daytime on Thursday, like where we would just get heavy rain, and then all of a sudden it pushed earlier to like before school started. Yeah, so after Ida, it was the first day of school. Yeah, I'm glad Ida's a retired name because of all the damage it caused and all the deaths it caused and all the flooding it caused and all the power outages it caused. Yeah, this was definitely a costly storm. And it made landfall on the same day Katrina made landfall 16 years earlier in 2005. And this wasn't an economy destroying hurricane when Katrina hit and it flooded all these neighborhoods and destroyed many homes. Yeah, Katrina really destroyed the economy. Yeah, it really hurt the economy. If you have a hurricane like that, it could really hurt the economy. Yeah, that's how serious these storms were. I'm glad Ida and Katrina retired their names during that annual meeting they have every spring. So, Ida and Katrina were not to be messed with, and I guess that's it. Bye.